All right, all right. I want to talk today to you guys about something. Something I keep seeing in the group, as well as we're hearing on calls with potential clients of Empowered Man and really with clients in general. And that is, what do I do? My wife has just come to me and says she doesn't love me anymore. She's cheating on me, right? Like all of these things that are happening that most of you guys are going through right now. You saw the video or you saw an ad or somehow you got connected to us and you came in the group and you're like trying to figure out, what do I do now? There's really not a specific plan of action for one woman, right? Because every woman's different. But there is one thing that you must absolutely do. And that is, well, actually, before I tell you what exactly you got to do, think about it this way. Here's a person who loved you, who was married to you, and over time got to a place where they decided, for whatever reason, whether it was their own internal issues or some of your issues, that you guys weren't a fit anymore, or that you weren't good for each other anymore, and made a decision. Whether that decision was, to fall into a new relationship, to quote unquote fall out of love, which in my opinion is a choice, or to leave you, to move out into mom's house, whatever, right? Like all of those things happening are a result of something internal that's happening with her. Now, as a man, you cannot control the internal things that are happening to her. The only thing you can control are the internal things that are happening to you. But you must understand that she did not just on a whim one day woke up and said, you know what, I think I'm going to leave my marriage. Now, a lot of us think that because it feels like we're getting hit in the face with a 2x4 as soon as we're told, I don't want to be in this marriage anymore, I don't love you anymore, or we find that she's been cheating. It's a wake-up call to every man, right? And so we get frantic and we're searching for answers. We're going on Google, we're calling up buddies, we're texting people, and we're freaking out because we're out of control. We don't feel in control. A lot of times I'll be talking to a guy and they'll start telling me the story and I'm like, whoa, stop for a second, let's breathe. Take that breath for a second, because you are no good to anybody until you can slow the fuck down and you can breathe for a minute and have clarity and confidence in what you're about to do next. So this is for the guys who kind of have just found out, or they're kind of, struggling. They really don't know what to do, what path they should be on. There's really one thing that you can do and that you should do. And here it is. You must become a man that is worthy of receiving your wife back. Let me say that again. You must become a man that is worthy of receiving or having your wife back. Because if you don't do that, and let's say you convince her, let's say you're a manipulative type guy and you persuade her and be like, oh baby, I'm going to change. I'm going to do all these things. I'm going to start going to AA. I'm going to start going to Sexaholics Anonymous. I'm going to stop looking at porn. I'm going to stop doing this. All these things that we say we're going to do. And she's like, okay, fine, I'll come back. And then she comes back and 6 weeks later, you haven't changed and nothing's changed. Your relationship's still the same because you're not working on you. You're not doing the internal things that you must do, that you've not become the man you must become. So there's no reason for her to come back until you've become the man you were supposed to become. Now, what does that look like? That looks like doing the hard shit. That looks like getting in the ground, in the dirt, and getting in the mud, and going through the stuff that got you to here. Look, you didn't just wake up one day and you're here. Like nothing, like I just happened to fall onto this planet. I just happened to fall into my house in Glendale, Arizona, right? That's not how it works. That is not what happens. What happens is we have thoughts, we have actions, we have beliefs that lead us to the place we are at right now. And suddenly our wife has said, I don't love you anymore. Or suddenly you find out she's cheating. Or suddenly she's putting divorce papers in front of you. Or suddenly she's saying, I want a divorce. Or saying we're not good for each other. All those things are happening. And in our mind, the only thing we can think of is, I got to fix this. I've got to fix this. I've got to fix this now. I've got to stop the bleeding. So I call it triage whenever we get a new client. The first thing we do when we work with a client is we call it our triage call. And we have you go through a bunch of questions, and it helps us get an understanding of where things are at so we can map a plan forward so that we stop the bleeding, and we help you create a plan to actually become the man that's worthy of having your wife back. So look, if you're struggling right now with what do I do? Where do I need to go? There's a couple of basic things you need to do. Number one, you need to settle in yourself. I really want my wife, or I really am ready to let this marriage go. Either way, I'm not here to judge you on which one you're going to do. But you need to make a decision. You need to be a leader, step up and make a decision and decide, do I want to be married to her still, or am I ready to let her go? And if I'm ready to let her go, I've got to be at peace with that. If I'm ready to stand in this marriage and stand for as long as it takes, I've got to be at peace with that. So number one, you got to make a decision. Am I staying in this marriage, or am I letting it go? Number two, you've got to decide on who is it that I want to be now? How do I want to show up now? See, if you do this, if you engage in this process, the process I'm telling you about right now, you're going to be so much further ahead than most men in this situation. Look, a lot of marriages could actually end, or not end in these situations. A lot of marriages could be saved, but they don't because the guy jacks it up. The guy goes out and gets controlling, right? I was talking to one of my clients earlier, and he was talking about the fact that, when all of this started to go down, he became super controlling. Guy yesterday I was on the phone with, he found out his wife was cheating on him. And what's he do? He goes and pulls up phone records every day. He's searching and looking and trying to figure out what she's doing and where she's going and who she's with. All these things. And you're so worried about her, you've lost track of you. And I'll say to a guy, this is what you need to do. You need to focus on you. You need to get better. Be like, man, my wife just told me that. Hello? Because she's trying to give you the fucking game plan to get her heart back. The woman is not just evil. She doesn't hate you. And even if she does, she really hates herself for what she's doing. But she's trying to get you to wake up and see that you've got to deal with you, that you've got to overcome your issues, that you've got to become the man that is worthy of her coming back to. Now, regardless of whether or not she comes back to you, it doesn't fucking matter at all, okay? What matters is who you are becoming in that process. That's all that matters. That's all that matters. You win either way. This is what I tell my clients. You come on the phone with me, and the first thing we're going to do is, look, I'm going to show you that no matter what happens, as much as you want your wife back, as much as you have this heart and desire to have her back, you making yourself better, you win. You win. You win. You fucking win. How amazing is that? Like, nothing can beat that. Nothing can take away from the fact that if you are doing what you say you are doing, you're setting boundaries, you're communicating right, you're owning your own shit, right? You're figuring out what you want, you're rediscovering your identity and who you are, and you're becoming strong and powerful in those things, you win. Gentlemen, that's where we're at. You're in these groups, and I see some of the questions and comments, and I'm in a bunch of groups. I'm in a bunch of, divorced dads or all these different groups, and the guys are all coming the same thing. Like, this has happened. What do I do? This is it. This is your game plan. This is your game plan. You need to start focusing on you. You get into blogs. You need to get in this group, post your questions, comments. You need to go on YouTube and learn about the things that are happening in you and get better. Some of you may need a therapist. Some of you may be ready for coaching. And if that's you, where you feel like, hey, you know what? I'm starting to do the things. I'm starting to work on me. I may be ready to have a conversation with you. Okay, we don't talk to everybody and we don't help everybody because we can't. It's impossible. There are too many men. I mean, if I could show you my calendar right now, it's ridiculous. We average 9 calls a day. And that's with us getting some breaks, because there are so many men that are in the exact same position as you. But not every man is ready to get help. Some men come in and they're just like, stop the bleeding, stop the bleeding, stop the bleeding. And I'm like, whoa, there's only so much bleeding I can stop. You yourself have to be willing to do the hard work. Like, I can go with you. I can get in the dirt and the ground with you. But if you're not doing the prep work to get ready to be coached, and to be ready to be malleable and to be ready to move from point A to point B, there's nothing I can do. So, gentlemen, I do not specialize in information. I specialize in transformation. A mentor of mine shared this with me one time, and I'm sharing it with you. And he said, when you come into my world, you don't leave without being changed. I say the same thing. When you come into the empowered man world, if you apply the stuff that we teach you, if you get in the dirt and you do the assignments that I give you as a client, you apply the stuff, you will be a stronger man. You will be a better man. You will be a better husband. You will feel at peace with yourself. Shit, half the stuff that you're dealing with and feeling right now that therapists can't even figure out is because you're not in alignment with yourself. You're saying one thing and you're doing something completely different. And we want to get you crystal clear in that alignment. So if you decide right now whether, hey, I want this marriage or I don't want this marriage, and if you're not clear about that, we can help you gain clarity on that. We don't push people in either direction. I've had some guys cancel recently because they thought that we're just pushing you to save your marriage. No, we want you to be you. If you decide this marriage isn't worth saving, we're going to support you through that, and our program supports you through that. If you're the guy that's saying, I want to save my marriage, I want to do what I can, but I don't know if it's possible, we're still going to be there to support you through that. That's how we work. We help liberate a man so that he can become the best version of himself internally. We fix the internal game, and we do that through our coaching practice. But regardless of what you do now, in terms of coaching and all that stuff, what I care about right now is that you make decisions. Don't straddle the fucking fence. Get off the fence. Decide what you're going to do. If you're going to be a man of action, take action. If you're going to be a man that sits around and is just crying all night and just like a baby and not dealing with things, look, I'm all for emotions and I'm all for crying. I cry a lot myself, and I've dealt with a lot of pain over the years. But if you just stay wallowing in that pain and you don't actually take action, you are losing. You are not becoming who you can be and who you should become. So I'm challenging you guys right now to make a decision. Which way am I going with this thing? Am I in it to win it, or am I getting out? And then from there, decide, right? Even if you decide to leave, decide to say, you know what? I'm going to become the kind of man that the type of woman I want to attract is going to be attracted to. Okay? So even if you're ending your marriage, you still need to become the kind of man that you want to become for your own sake. But if you're not and you're all in it, man, you got to become the man that she's attracted to. And I don't mean you have to do everything physically, whatever, but internal game. Sometimes that internal game means external things. But most of the time, it's just working on me, becoming a better me.